I'll just try to speak loudly. Everybody hear me? Good? Okay. Good morning. As some of you have given us such a friendly welcome coming in, and thanks so much for that. It just really puts us at ease to come, and we just felt such a presence of God here and such friendly people, so thank you for that. I'm Jeannie Clements, my husband Tony, and our family, we live near Alberton, and we've known Pastor Scott and Louise for years. I'm so glad to be here today, and I appreciate being able to talk about loving the least of these ministries. The first thing I'd like to let you know is I'm not a public speaker. Speaking was never a dream of mine. But when I started going on mission trips, at one point I made a promise to the Lord that if I'm asked to speak, I'll say yes. Because there was a couple of times I was supposed to, and I kind of, it wasn't like this, but I knew I was supposed to get up and speak, and I didn't, and I was so disappointed in myself, and I knew I was supposed to, and I was convicted. So I kind of made that promise to him that I wouldn't do that again. And I do believe we're supposed to come back and tell people about what God's doing in other places. Almost 10 years ago, I went on a work and witness trip to Rwanda, Africa. Pastor Scott was on that trip with me too. And it just totally changed my life. It just totally changed my Christian walk, I think, for me. And everybody's different. But I just feel, looking back, that my walk was pretty shallow. And I just thought I was doing all the right things. And I think it was more about me. And through these trips, be sure that's not all of me. It's nothing to do with me. I went 3 more times to Rwanda, and I plan to go back as often as possible, but as you know, sometimes God changes our plans. And I ended up going to Haiti on another work and witness trip in 2016 with my son Jack, who was 14 at the time, under Pastor Dale Thistle from Woods Mountain. I was terrified to go. The night before our plane left, I think I called Tony and I was like, what am I doing? I'm taking my 14-year-old to this dangerous city, and I lost all my trust. But it came back, and it's just one of those things. Thank God for taking me there. The missionary coordinators for Work and Witness in Haiti were Pastor Tanya and Derek Lucy. Probably a lot of people know them. Of them. And I was just so inspired by them on that trip. Living in such a hard country, it's so hot, but besides that, it's a hard country to live in. And they had such a huge love for the Haitians. Shortly after that trip, and keeping in touch with Pastor Tanya, I learned that they were feeling a call from God to do something about the street children in Haiti, abandoned and abused children. And they couldn't do that in the work and witness position they were holding. So after a lot of prayer, they took a huge leap of faith and began the process of starting a Christian nonprofit called Loving the Least of These Ministries. And they gave up all the safety nets of what they would have under the Nazarene church, health insurance, funding for your place to live, your vehicle, everything gone. During this time of transition, God placed in their care 14 abandoned children who had been living together in a house in a very dangerous area with no electricity or basic needs. These children were not in a good way at that time. They had experienced trauma and had been through some unspeakable things. Thankfully, there were some ladies there who were doing the best they could to take care of them. We call them the nannies. Doing it with no pay, and they had their own families to try and provide for. So it was a really desperate situation. These nannies are heroes. So it all began with Pastor Tony bringing some food to the children and just listening to the Lord. So each day is a step of faith for the Crucies. They gave up everything to follow this new path with the Lord, and it wasn't easy. Everything was hard and complicated, from getting actual guardianship of the children to finding and paying the rent on a safe place for them. In Haiti, you pay the rent yearly. So if you're going to rent a house, you pay a year up front. So you can imagine how hard that is to do for an average person, much less a Haitian. Sometimes you'll get lucky and you pay 6 months. So at this time, I would like to just kind of go through my pictures, I guess, and introduce you to a couple of the children. This first picture here is the project that we did last time. Kids are kids. They don't have a lot, and we came up with the idea to build a play set for them. And while it was going up, they were playing on it, and even the nannies tried it with the slide, and they really enjoyed it. There's been a little bit of fighting over the swing, but they're pretty good. The kids are pretty good. Next one. This is just a picture of my son on one of the trips with a little boy named Fayu. He's about 14, but I wouldn't know that. To me, he'd seem about 8. But you just see the joy in his face. Like they're just such loving kids, and they just need love, and they need to be shown Jesus.
He's 14?
He's about 14.
He's about 14. And so is that lack of nourishment, or like?
Yes, they say his mind is about a 6-year-old, and he probably will not get any older. And the sad part is, when they turn 18, by law they have to leave. So Fayu is one of the kids we worry about that. You know, we want to make sure he's ready, or that he has a foster family or a place to go, or maybe he'll have a job if loving these ministries. You know, that would be good. So I'm going next. And this is Eveline. She is quite a character. First time I met her, we had taken her to the beach. I got to kind of swing around the pool. She's just full of it, is what she is. She's about 6. There's nothing known about her parents. All I know is that she came from another orphanage. She's super smart. She doesn't miss anything. She doesn't miss an opportunity. But on this last visit, she did something pretty amazing, especially when you compare it to how our kids are. Another lady and I, kind of our project over there was cleaning out a storage room at the kids' house, which we call the kids' house the house of hope. It's not an orphanage. These kids are not waiting to be adopted out to the States or anyplace else. The purpose is to either reunite them with their biological families if possible, because some of their families want them. They gave them up to an orphanage because they thought they were giving them a better chance. Or foster families. The last ditch effort would be an adoption. So anyways, we're cleaning out this storage room, which was infested by mice, by the way. Yeah. I was scared to death.
We had the bucket though.
Yeah, that was like at the end of the trip. Finally got some help. But the mice were hopping out of everything, out of suitcases and stuff. It was horrible. But anyways, don't think I would have done it for anybody but Jesus. Anyways, Eveline, she had made sure that she was the first in line to be our guard outside the door, so the other children would be under her feet. And she knew she'd get to pick a treat when we were done. So Pastor Tanya happened by at that time and started showing her some different things, snacks, some lip gloss, crayons. There's these little kind of McDonald toys sort of things. But you know what she picked? I wish I had time to make these all guess, because you'd never get it. She picked a package of underwear, Hanes underwear. Oh. And then she asked if she could have another package of underwear that were in bigger sizes so she could give some out to the older girls. Then, and I do have a picture there, maybe if you can find it, just flipping through, she's sitting on a cooler. Right there. That's her handing out the underwear. She's sitting on a cooler. She's still in her school clothes because she hasn't changed because she wanted to be the guard. And she's handing out the underwear to all the girls. So, when have you heard of that here? I haven't. I don't think my son, who's like 11, would do that. We were all pretty impressed with her, and it just reminded us how they're a family. These 14 have kind of been together for a few years now, and they're family. You can go to the next one. That's just a picture of them at a meal. This is Nico. This is the why I knew I was going back. He's about 5. He was brought to an orphanage at 12 weeks. He was dehydrated, malnourished, and sick with pneumonia. When I first met him, we were taking all the children to the beach. They hadn't even been moved out of the dangerous house yet. They had to be transported to the Nazarene compound, and then we got in the cage truck to go to the beach. For most of them, it would be the first time they'd been to the beach or seen water. So he was beside me because he was one of the little ones, and we wanted to just make sure they didn't bounce around. And I was feeling a little awkward, truthfully, because when you know a child has been through trauma, you're just a little more careful about touching, and so I just felt a little awkward, not sure what to do. But then all of a sudden, he just kind of took my hand and he looked up at me with those big brown eyes. And my heart exploded, and I immediately knew, God willing, I was in this for the long haul with these kids and this ministry. It was this sweet boy right there that brought this moment about. And the next one. And this is Isaiah. At about 12 days old, he was found, if you can imagine, in a ditch. It was raining, and a Haitian man heard him crying and brought him to the orphanage. His mother was found but did not want him for whatever reason. He was really sick for a couple of years, and he almost died of pneumonia. Luckily, when the Cousins got involved, they took him to the hospital, and the doctor said he would have died shortly. He's about 4, and he's so cute, and every lady who visits is just totally under his spell. And they want to take him home, he's a real charmer. But every one of these children has a story. They've all experienced trauma, and yet they're just like any other child. They're sweet, they're silly, they're full of life. I've been to visit them 3 times now, and each time I see a huge difference in them. They're blooming now that they can feel safe and loved and have food in their bellies consistently. In our culture, we look at them and see them as poor. And I've had people say to me that they'd love to go, but they just find it so sad they couldn't handle it. But when you do go and spend time with them, you realize they're very rich in what matters, the Lord. It's much more sad to look around our own country and see what's happening here and with our youth. But there's so much to do in Haiti. So many children living on the streets of Port-au-Prince, which is one of the most dangerous cities in the world. If my little boy was in this situation, I would do whatever it took to rescue him. And many of us in the church, in the body, are called to be obedient and be part of the rescue. In Jesus' name. Pastor Tanya and Darren have been depending on God to provide. They have no salary, and taking care of these children and paying the nannies a small salary is all dependent on the Lord and those he speaks to from donations. So far, they've rented a house in a safer area for the children and have also rented a guest house for the teams to come in, which brings in revenue. God also provided the funds for a cage truck on the day they left to go back to Haiti to officially start this journey. They had no vehicle, they were going back walking. And before they went to the airport, someone provided that. In the midst of all this happening, Darren was diagnosed with cancer. He had surgery, he went back to Haiti, and within a few months his cancer was back, with tumors growing in his mouth, which was quite painful and made it increasingly hard to swallow and forced him to depend on a feeding tube until recently. And he just has finished recently a grueling round of chemo and radiation treatments. Just before he finished, Pastor Tanya, who had been evacuated from Haiti when riots got out of control in February of last year, flew back to Haiti just ahead of our team. She's pretty amazing, and she has such a deep love for the kids in Haiti. It's been one crisis after another for them, and yet they're standing strong and staying committed to what God has called them to do in Haiti. I know that the spiritual warfare for those involved in this ministry has been intense. Please pray for this ministry and for Pastor Tanya and Darren, as Darren so wants to return with Tanya in the fall, but they're not sure he'll be able to do so due to his health. Haiti is no joke. There are desperate people who have no way to fight against a corrupt government but to hold demonstrations. So there is danger, there is violence, there's extreme hunger, and there's a lot of voodoo, which is the country's official religion. But there's also a church that is thriving, and some of the most godly people I've ever met there, like Kirby Pierre. Kirby Pierre is the Haitian director of Loving Ministries. In his mid-20s, he gave his life to Christ when the earthquake hit, and has been living for him ever since. He is the most godly man I've ever met, and he is the one who found these children and brought the issue to Pastor Tony and Dearden. His whole life is the Lord's, and he is a father to these fatherless. I know there are times when he is hungry, but I've never heard it from him because he never complains. He just completely trusts in the Lord for all things. So that's what I wanted you to know, that these kids are precious, chosen by God to be rescued and grow into godly men and women of Haiti. I'm really excited to see what God has in store for them. And there's so many more waiting, and I think Edward will touch on that part. There's just so much information to tell you about the ministry, but not enough time. But anytime, I'm always available, and I love talking about it. So if there's anything, any questions, go for it, because we're here to answer them, and I'll let Edward come up and fill in my gaps.
So are you able to, Jean, are you able to come and go down there on your own, like, or do you, how dangerous is Port-au-Prince for a woman?
I wouldn't go any place by myself. When we hit the airport, we are serious. We get our stuff. We walk out, and they're there. Like, we're in contact with them. We leave the airport. That's the most dangerous part that you could get in.
Yeah, getting out of the airport is one of the toughest.
So, and we're in a locked cage truck.
It wouldn't hurt to have him by your side.
Oh yeah, that's a really easier.
So when he puts his serious face on, there's like...
Yeah, we don't like. We have like the sunglasses on, you do not make eye, oh yeah, no. Good morning, everyone, good morning. My name is Edward Kinney. I am actually from Greenmount, which is about 5 minutes between Alton and Tignish. Grew up there all my life. Married to a wonderful woman, my wife Corrine, and my son Jared here with us today. So yeah, Haiti itself. Haiti, of course, shares the island with Dominican Republic and the Caribbean. Classified by one of the World Health Organizations as the most poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Poverty-stricken, hot. When Judy says hot, it's hot. The weather we had last week, they have that every day. And that's just mine. Plus 40, 42, and humidity runs incredibly high during the day. But the biggest thing that I really, whenever we were asked, is I have 2 questions that I want to ask you today. Number 1, has God ever spoken to you? And I mean, whenever He speaks to you, as you clearly hear the words in your ear, and you're looking around like, is someone just say something to me? And number 2 is, are you listening? This ministry for me started back in early 2018, probably about April, May. I was actually, for the first time in my life, participated in something in church, and I was out in Nazarene Mission Council. So anyhow, I knew Jeannie and some other people had traveled to one of these trips, and I said, well, Jeannie, what's this all about? So anyhow, they started explaining to me what they did, what was going on, and we were driving home that night, and all of a sudden, I was sitting in my car, everything was fine, and I heard God say, Edward, you are going to Haiti. Really? Yeah, Edward, you are going to Haiti. I have a business, I have a family, I have stuff going on. No, you're going to Haiti. Got home, looked at my wife, practically in tears, and said, Crane, I think God is telling me I have to go to Haiti. She said, okay. Called Jeannie, I said, I'm in. But what we didn't realize is whenever we do listen to God, how blessed our lives become. And that's what I found out on our first trip. Not only just being, whenever you meet beautiful children like this, the other Haitian people are quite wonderful people. When you show them equal respect, you wouldn't believe how blessed and how wonderful they will receive you. To the point was, actually one day, it was actually Sunday, 2 or 3 of the team members and I, we had went to a private home, back streets of Port-au-Prince, which was a little scary. You walk down the street, you have dogs barking at your ankles, and you have locals looking at you because to them, you are a British white man. So anyhow, we went into this lovely people's home just to visit people that they knew. And upon leaving, we started ready to say our simple goodbyes to everybody. And there was this elderly lady in the corner. Never spoke to her, had no idea. Even to this day, I have no idea who she is. So I went down to shake her hand, and she grabbed me right by the hand, pulled me right down to my knees. And I was a little scared. But I kind of wasn't, but I kind of was. And she started praying over me, loud. And I'm talking loud. And I could actually, it's the first time in my life, I felt a prayer going completely through me. Like, I'm talking, I can't even describe the feeling that was going through me. Couldn't understand a word she said. She was touching my forehead, my knees, my chest, my shoulder, and she was actually praying over me. I had no idea what was going on. Found about 2 days later, we're actually at the airport, and the team here, I said, was he saying to him? What was she saying? And she's like, Edward, she was actually praying the armor of God over you. And it hit me, I was like, who am I to receive such a blessing from someone? It humbled me beyond anything I could imagine, because I thought I was there to bless others, and actually I was being blessed beyond anything I could ever imagine myself. So coming back, we were actually, of course, after experiencing stuff like that, and of course meeting these lovely children, I was totally game on for round 2, which doesn't surprise anyone. So we actually prepared for a second trip, and it was actually supposed to be in February of this year. And of course, with riots and politics and what have you, and our lovely friends at Air Canada, our trip actually got canceled twice, and we ended up having to make alternate plans and flying out in June. And even in this time, like Jeannie had just mentioned, how the spiritual warfare is unreal. Just how it hits you, how it makes you doubt yourself, doubt your team members, how it spoils just your personal life, your work life, and because God does not want you to do this kind of stuff. He does not want you to do His work. Sorry, God does, the devil doesn't. So anyhow, and of course, as we were preparing for this round, for the second trip, I started hearing Dawn talking to me again, and said, Edward, you're going to go to the streets. I said, okay. I said, all right. And that's all I could hear. You're going to the streets. Didn't say what I was doing or nothing. I said, all I could hear was, I'm going to the streets. I said, okay, great. They have wonderful neighbors. Because you drive down their streets, go from here, I'd say probably to almost the end of the road here. And it's lined with homes, side streets. You drive through it all the time. And you see people, you wave, you know. I thought, okay, God wants me to go and visit these people. I don't get it. That's a little bit. No. And the other weird thing is about whenever you're preparing for these kind of trips is not only just financially fundraising, but also just prepping yourself. We hit a lot of discouragement, and you're also being hit with a lot of doubt, like I just mentioned. But the other thing was too, we did a chance to, or Jean didn't highlight on, is what we do with these kids during the week. So of course during the week we usually build a project of some kinds, but at the end of the week we usually have, of course, church on Sunday. And for myself, one of the things I was very shocked by when God clearly spoke to me on 10:30 on a Thursday night while in the shower was that I was going to teach children devotional Bible school. And I'm like, I'm not a teacher. I'm not going to make it a Sunday school on that Sunday. I have zero teaching abilities, of course, and God told me I was going to teach devotional Bible school, or devotional Bible school, as they call it. And I was like, okay. But the interesting thing was, when I finally said, yes, I will do it, all of a sudden, we were getting fundraising money coming in. People were making donations of stuff that we needed for the names, for the children. It was just, stuff was just overflowing because you were being blessed because you were listening, which was wonderful. So, and even as we continue to work in this ministry, I believe that if we listen to what God has told us to do and follow upon it, you will continue to be blessed. So, of course, my biggest part on this trip, too, was, of course, this thing that God told me about going to the streets. So, come to find out, on our way, we actually through the States, we were on our way to Bangor, and we were working, and also I'm hearing about that there's a new direction that the ministry is working in, and that is street children. And these are children who are not, they have no home. There's approximately between 35 to 40 of them that they know about. So the idea is to try and somehow feed them. I was not aware of any of this until the day we were actually traveling, which really hit me like a brick wall, because apparently I think that's the direction that God wanted me to go. So yeah, once we found out that yes, we would be actually meeting street children on this trip, it was a real, one of the hugest highlights. So I'll give you an idea. It was actually on a Friday. We were just finishing up the project that you had just seen. We had just finished it up, little minor details, and then that night we were actually going out just for something to eat. We were driving down Port-au-Prince Street, which is one of the, it's called El Mas, which is something like University Avenue. To give you an idea, Haiti is about, Port-au-Prince is about the size of Halifax. Halifax is about 400,000 people. Port-au-Prince is 2.5 million. Not one street light. No stoplights, no nothing. It's just drive, whatever. But it's very populated. So, and of course, everything has to be very well guarded. So we're in a area, it's about halfway downtown. We're put into a grocery parking lot. And of course, to give you an idea, it is about, I'm going to say the size of a Save-Easy in Kensington. That kind of size of it. 12-foot barrier wall around the entire property, lined with barbed wire, of course. At the front gates, there is 2 iron gates to get in and out only, armed with 3 security guards with shotguns. That's every day. That is just living. Every gas station has a security guard with shotgun. Every store has a security guard with shotgun at the entrance. We drive in, and we pull up. I'm not sure what's happening yet. And then, of course, the pastor comes to the back of the truck. Mr. Kenny, let's go. So we go to the front of the truck. She says, grab this. So I have snack bars, granola bars, say this is what you have in the dish. Start loading pockets. Loading pockets. She said, we're going to the corner. So I walk down to the corner with her, and we just stand there. And you have no idea if you're going to be jumped, kidnapped, you get shot, you have no idea. But you're just standing there waiting. 30 seconds. So that's the time. One little kid starts shouting up. 30 seconds later, 2 more. Within about 90 seconds, we had about 12 boys, ages from 6 to about 13, standing in front of us. And what they have on is everything they got. What they have on their feet is everything that they got. Some of them didn't even have shoes on. Right? So the kids, of course, are fascinated. Who is this strange white man? And she said, this is Mr. Edward. He's from Canada. He's here to see you. So she's talking with them. And while she's talking with them, I'm watching my sides. You don't know what, if the kids are just luring you, so you're going to kidnap you or jump you, or rob you. This guy's walking down the street, watching them, he's staring right at me. Okay? I'm bigger than you. And he's still looking at me, and he comes right up to me, and he said, can I help you? I say, thank you. I said, thank you. I said, for what? He said, what are you doing here? And I told him, I said, we're here, we're working with kids, we meet the kids in the street. He says, I have never seen a white man on this street who wasn't terrified. I said, no, I'm not scared. I'm watching himself, but I said, no, I'm not scared. Turns out he's a reporter, actually in Port-au-Prince. He works for one of the major news networks. He actually has connections in Edmonton, Alberta, which was kind of interesting. So it's a little true, no, but that's fine. But it was actually very wonderful, one of the most wonderful things just to meet him. But anyhow, so after we had met with him very shortly, and we were able to talk with the kids, we were able to feed them a bit. We walked into the grocery store behind us, got some bottled water for the children, walked out to the street, of course, again, with a team of about 3 or 4 of us from the truck. And to give these kids water, it was just like giving them a $100 bill. It was fresh, clean water. So they just could not believe that we had done that for them. I think we actually have a picture somewhere of those children. I think it's further down, please. You may have to go into the, on the jump drive. That's okay. Anyhow, I have a picture, and it doesn't, it's okay, it doesn't matter, because the pictures didn't load up the jump drive back, so it's not a big deal. It was really interesting because what we had, the kids were so fascinated to have somebody so there to talk to them, and actually one of the little kids came up to the pastor and he said, Pastor, I want my picture taken. She said, "Why?" She said, I want to see that book next to me. So we did, and unfortunately we just can't bring it up here. It was one of those, it's a picture that just still resonates in my heart every day when I look at it. You know, this little fella just wants to see what we look like when he's still awake now, which was fantastic. So anyhow, the whole idea, actually, after meeting those children, it really resonated in my heart, and it's really hit me so hard that we're actually going to try and develop, and working with Pastor Rupert and talking, how to implement a feeding program for these children. And what it is we're trying to actually feed them once a week on a Sunday, but also to actually have two things, Kirby and another young fellow who actually worked with the pastor, actually preach the word of God to these kids, so that they actually understand that there actually is a Father in heaven who actually loves them. So that is what the thing is, what we're going to be working on in the next coming months. The other thing that really surprised me that God told me is that, and then actually in January of 2020, I'm going to lead a team back into Haiti, which is a different role, which I'm excited but terrified to actually take a team of people down and actually work with, hopefully, to actually kickstart this feeding program for the kids, and actually, you know, be able to feed these children, and because they are just, that's how we are all that they have. So that is our objective. The other objective also in 2020 is to actually, as Jeannie had mentioned, the kids, once they turn the age of 18, they cannot stay at the orphanage any longer. So what our goal is to go down and actually teach them skills. So teach them sewing, could be cooking, could be like carpentry, anything that'll give these children an opportunity so that they are actually don't have to either go to the streets to actually work for a living. They're actually able to find a trade, or even just to help support themselves. So anyhow, that gives you an idea of what my perspective on what our mission was in Haiti. Thank you to your congregation, or all of you, for listening for this morning. So anyhow, that's what I just want to quickly remind you. You know, if God is really talking to you, He's trying to ask, you know, are you truly listening? And as you realize, you know, just how blessed you can actually be in life. I know it blessed my life beyond anything I've ever experienced in my life, and it's been still the greatest blessing in my life. Growing up, and even in the last few years, I was actually a very quiet individual, a very selfish individual. How this hit me and how this changed my life is beyond anything I've ever could even understand or even explain myself. But I thank God every day for it. I thank you for my family, and I just want to thank all of you. Have a great day.